Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to talk about the state of football here in Louisiana. The New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, and the Tulane Green Wave. We'll also touch on the Final Four in college football. And you asked for him, we got him for you. College and football, pro football and college analyst, Mike Detillier joins us on the program from WWL Radio and so much more. And Mike, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Eric.
Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
with us. Always great to have you. I always get a tremendous amount of feedback from the audience when we have you on the show. When do you get Mike back on? Well, we got you back tonight, and I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Mike, we always start off, want to let folks know a little bit about what's going on with you. I mean, you've got your hands in so many different things. Could you tell us a little bit about, well, obviously, from your publication to the radio to what you're doing in other markets as well?
Yeah, you know, it's a busy time for me, certainly with college football season, regular season almost basically over with. Just gearing up for the 2015 NFL draft, and every day now some juniors are coming out, and we got the kind of trump card yesterday with Lorenzo Doss making his decision known basically via Twitter, which you get a lot of those informations today. So just keeping up with everything in that realm, certainly with 13 college pregame shows every week. You hit the tape and you don't hit it strong. It's not Usain Bolt when you hit it, but so that's pretty much over with to the bowl season and, you know, all this stuff, certainly with the Saints, Tennessee Titans draft, and keeps me busy pretty good.
Publication will be out in April?
It'll be out in probably late March or first couple days of April, and you know, I'll probably have about 70% of it already done.
Really?
Yeah, because you know about the seniors already. Every once in a while you'll have a breakout guy. That 30% is juniors and also guys that may have come up the draft charts pretty quickly. And sometimes people mature as a prospect a little bit later. And so you always keep your eyes open on that sort of thing. And also, too, is every year, and everybody says, I got to expand it, but I go to 12 different sources, and they give me their take on the top players in the NFL. And not throw my 2 cents word in there, but you're getting people that are coaches, people in front office, scouts, one former NFL head coach, to give you opinion of the top players in the NFL. Eric, what's crazy, the top 15 basically don't vary. It's from 16 to 100. You got some guys with who they rank 16 or 17 on 98th and 100th on another. It does go to show you how this game, even from a college standpoint, is so kind of guess. But when you're talking about pro players and have that diverse of opinion, it does go to show you, and everyone has a different opinion of it, but it's probably, other than the mock draft and the detail of the players, the one thing everybody says about don't ever stop doing those top players in the National Football League. Yeah.
Mike, how many years is this now?
This is going to be year 28.
28. How has this evolved? How has it changed in terms of you scouting players, you putting the book together? Obviously, things have changed in terms of us being able to watch players from around college and pro football. You know, obviously with YouTube, games on constantly now. How has this changed in terms of you putting together this publication?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think more ability to get film from smaller college players. Years back, it was difficult, really difficult sometimes to get it. And also, 28 years ago, nobody knew who I was. You know, today, you're in a little bit different situation where when you call and ask, or you talk to an assistant coach or a trainer, they're more than willing to give you that information. And you know it's their version of the truth.
Yes.
So you have to decipher it. Also, to the agent part of it is totally different than it was maybe the first 10 years I started doing this. You get a lot of information from agents. It's their version of the truth.
Yes.
And what you have to decipher is, a lot of times they're telling you all about their clients and in essence kind of backhanding other people at the same position. So you have to kind of cut through the clutter, and there's always, I'm say 5 to 8 guys that aren't in your top 100 and they make the run. in late February, March, or April. And years past, you know what? I would not pay attention to it. Today I do.
Yes.
It does affect their draft status, but it doesn't tell you how good of a player they are. But if you hit the hoof beast behind you, you better start kind of maneuvering that draft board a little bit because them horses is coming right behind you.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Saints. 5-8, a very disappointing season by anyone's standards, especially for a team that was thought to be able to vie for a championship. We've seen a shakeup this week with the Saints. Obviously, Joe Morgan is cut. At his press conference today, Sean Payton denied that Kenny Vaccaro has been benched. Supposedly, there were reports there were 10 players that were called into Sean Payton's office to get the wrath of Payton. Also, they had kicker tryouts on Wednesday as well. What's your take, first of all, on what Payton has done over the last few days to try to light a fire under these players?
It's good luck. And if you haven't lit a fire under them now, okay, I know it happened a year ago. You made a few changes. You made a kicking change. Well, that really only affects one guy. And Charles Brown was playing so bad, you had no choice but to put Teron Armstead in there. I think you were hoping to give him a redshirt season, but you basically were forced to play him. And I'll be honest with you, I thought Armstead did a really terrific job other than that one half against Greg Hardy in the first game against Carolina. Has he really shaken up anything? He brought in 3 kickers. My thing is, to shake up who? A guy who's kicking 18 out of 20 field goals?
Right.
What does that tell to the other guys? No matter how productive I am, you're going to try to replace me? That can work you both ways. I've got former coaches that live around me, as you know.
Yes.
I got coaches in my family. The first comment is, you know what that tells some of your teammates? You're not satisfied with 18 of 20? Now, he did miss a field goal in the game. Was that a momentum changer? No. Man, you got clocked in that football game. Is Kenny Vaccaro the main problem you have on defense?
No.
That answers quickly no. Joe Morgan was a nondescript player this season. Now, personally, I like Joe. Personally. He was a guy that had been scuffed up a little bit, had got second and third chances. But you know what would really upset me? Drew Brees throws a ball deep downfield that he didn't even fight for.
Yes.
He could have made that catch and yanked the ball away from the Carolina defender. He made basically no effort to try to do it. And that's what's more disturbing to me than anything. Kenny Vaccaro has made some mental errors and got himself out of position by being too aggressive and at times not making smart plays. We saw it at the end of the Pittsburgh game. Perfect indication of kind of pushing, shoving, jawing with players. You know what? You winning. Leave that go. But this late in the season, how many personnel choices do you have?
Well, especially on a team that's so injured. On the defensive side of the ball, one of the first things I thought about is, what are you going to do, especially in that defensive backfield? When I heard Vaccaro was being sat down, I said, for what? A play? 2 plays? 3 plays? You're going to put Sanford back there at this point? He's going to be your starter? You know what? Obviously, he's one of the better players on the defense, even though he's making mistakes. I don't know how that is an example if you're just going to sit a guy down for a couple plays or maybe a quarter. That hurts you more than helps you, in my opinion. On the offensive side of the ball, hey, man, it's easy to get rid of a decoy who has a non-guaranteed contract, no matter, and whether he's had some problems in the locker room or not. I don't know how much of a message this was sent to the team. And
zero message.
Yeah, I don't know how this gets this team motivated one way or the other. But the biggest thing that we're finding out more than anything else is, Mike, and younger players now, again, they're a lot different than they were 3 seasons ago, 5 seasons ago, 10 seasons ago. And we've heard it over and over again. I've heard whispers out the locker room from guys that cover the team that talk to me on and off the air about the immaturity, the unprofessional manner that these guys go about their business in the locker room, not preparing each and every week as they should, not listening to Payton. The problem is this team is so cash-strapped right now. How do you purge this lineup when you have so much dead money that you're dealing with $21 million over the cap and they haven't done anything for next year?
And you can't go to Walmart and buy your players. There is no line and no supermarket that you can go in to get players at this point in time. It's just not there. So you're hurting at cornerback, no question about it. Eric, I think the most puzzling thing is that 3 out of the last 4 games at home, where's the emotion on this football team? Where's the fire in this football team that's not there today? It's so usual to see that in Sean Payton coach teams. Now, the San Francisco game, listen, that was an ebb and flow game into that. But what happened in Cincinnati?
Right.
And it's almost like the line from Godfather 3. And Michael Corleone says, you know, that Pittsburgh game, just when I'm ready to get out, they pull me back in.
Yes.
And you know what? They suckered us back in to think, you know what? Maybe the season will change. You're playing a bad Panthers team, and they got the worst defeat in the Sean Payton era against the Panthers, who are a bad football team. I don't care how you cut it. Bottom line is, sometimes coaches panic. I've heard it from all of them that it has happened to everyone. You trying to do something, you know it's wrong, but you have no choice but to maybe kind of tap a button here and there to see maybe you can spark your football team. But again, there is no line at Walmart to buy your players, and the emotional heartbeat on this team has went up and down like a stock market, like a stock that you would buy, up and down, up and down, up and down. It wouldn't shock me at all. This team come out and play real well against Chicago. You know why? Past history tells you they don't play well in Chicago, don't play well outdoors. It's going to be a weather game. Yes. The Bears are coming off of a bad game, but they've had a pretty good history other than last year when the Saints caught them in a nice weather game in Chicago. See how bad the Saints played against Carolina? He said, man, they're going to go to Chicago and lose? No, watch them end up winning the game against the Bears. The shocking thing would be is, can you do it twice? Can you do it back-to-back weeks? And you know what happens the following week? You play Atlanta.
Yes. Well, so far we've seen an undisciplined team. We've seen a team that is not what we're used to when a Sean Payton coached team, a team that doesn't kill itself with errors. This has happened consistently. You've had some injuries, obviously, on the defensive side, but, you know, Mike, I've talked about on this show, I've talked about on my radio show, maybe, you know, there was a situation where players kind of overachieved last year with Payton coming back. The excitement of him in the locker room, the demanding of nature of Sean Payton, and, you know, especially along that defensive line, which again has really, I think, been the real problem on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, in terms of, again, exposing some of the areas where you got some real deficiencies. Mike, you and I talked last year. We talked at the beginning of this season. You look at defensive line, you know, Jordan and Hicks especially. Those are two guys that just haven't showed up this season.
John Jenkins has occasionally spurted out. And I know he's coming off of an injury. I know what somebody heavy looks like, too. Because, you know, I see that in the mirror every once in a while myself. So my thing about it is, too, Eric, is leadership on this football team. On defense, name me, other than Curtis Lofton, is there a leader out there on this defensive team? On offense, yes, you have Drew Brees and what he's accomplished, and he is a leader. Jari Evans, man, just by him walking in that locker room, what he's accomplished throughout his career, no, he's a leader. What I'm looking for is, where are the young leaders on this team? And you look around the NFL, and Pete Carroll had the best line last year. He said, you know what? I won a Super Bowl, or our team won, with the second youngest team to ever win a Super Bowl. Look at those leaders on we had. Second year, third year, fourth year guys. None of those guys, 8, 9, 10 years in the NFL. Russell Wilson, look what happened with that. You have a situation there. I think that's what calls out. And sometimes you got to go through a bad experience to become a leader. So my thing is, your young leaders, the Jimmy Grahams, Teron Armstead, who's a very talented player, to become a leader at a young age. Cam Jordan, the exact same way. I think somewhere down the line, you got to become a leader, not only by your play on the field, but showing the young kids or the younger guys on this team, and I think you brought up a great point. That's a sense of entitlement. Now, we sound more like our dads than anything else, but it is what it is. A much younger NFL, they make a 53-man roster, and why you see this roller coaster all across the NFL, much younger lead, and guys make the team. You know what? I'll study hard for this game because I know who I play and where it's on TV, and maybe won't study as hard for this one. I'll get myself prepared for that. That is part of the NFL get used to because of the salary cap situation.
No, I agree. And again, this team very top heavy. If you look at the salary cap, that's one of the problems right now on why you may be tough to purge some of the problems.
I think you're going to see a lot of purging in this offseason.
Mike, when you look at the situation in Seattle, their head coach was a college coach. And he knows the young athlete maybe a little better than a Sean Payton knows the young athlete. And as we just discussed, the changes now that we're seeing with this young athlete, a little different than we saw earlier. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You know, if I'm doing a contract now, it's in the contract. Okay, about social media.
The agents let you know right off the bat. That's, you know, you can do whatever you want. We'll find a way to leak that kind of stuff. And that guy got a way to communicate what he thinks is his fans. If it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, it's instantly. So what's interesting, though, you bring up Pete, but the guy who has done it more consistently, Bill Belichick. Man, he ain't no more old school a coach than Bill. But you know what he does, and when I look back at his history, he's got, over the last 7 or 8 years, what has stayed the same in New England? Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Vince Wilfork. Everybody else has come and gone.
Interchangeable.
And so what he does, I'll use the term my old buddy Joe Clark always says, bring in scuffed players. They motivated. You know what? They've been cut. They've been traded. They've been guys that, you know what, you don't belong here. We got to let you lose.
Look at 06 for the Saints. Same type of player.
Same situation. When I look at New England today, Akeem Ayers, he couldn't start for the Tennessee Titans, and he's starting for the Patriots. Darrelle Revis was told, you know what, no more Revis Island for you. You can go somewhere else. So he goes to the Patriots. Brandon Browner, look how many times he's scuffed up and taken the fall and been what he said. LeGarrette Blount gets cut from the Steelers because he missed practice and he walked away from a game. He plays and carries the football double-digit times right less than a week after he's picked up by the Patriots. Eric, there is something about that you got to prove something to somebody every time you hit the field. One thing Belichick has done beautifully is I'm going to bring that guy in that's motivated maybe for the next contract, motivated to stay in the league. I live a certain lifestyle, and I don't want to lose it. Because you know what? I lost it maybe once already. I think that is part of the NFL. He's done as well as anybody in this league. Like him, dislike him. They're not just winning, and certainly you got to give Brady full credit. I think he's the greatest quarterback of our era. Nothing against Peyton Manning, but look where he's done it, outdoors, with an interchangeable system. And when he walks into the Hall of Fame, Randy Moss will be there from that team, but he had a sharp window in New England. He walks in with Bill Belichick. That is what amazing about that organization, how well they've been able to kind of just pick that head up, keep walking, and bring in guys that have been scuffed and said, you got to get to stepping somewhere else. They want to prove to you how good they are.
866-3200 is the phone number. Mike Detillier, our guest from WWL Radio. Let's go to Chris, Uptown. Chris, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Chris.
Hi. My question is, do you think that Sean Payton going to be here in 2015?
Thank you for the call, Chris. He's under contract, $8 million a year
until
2017.
Ain't going anywhere.
Well, he said it today that he's not going anywhere.
I understand what Peter King wrote, but Sean Payton's not going anywhere. I mean, he's going to finish that contract out with the Saints. Now, no guarantees after that. No guarantees after that contract's over with, and it wouldn't shock me to see Sean and Drew kind of walk out together. And you know, he's always made the comment, "I'm not a lifer in the NFL." Now he joked during the summertime about I'll coach until I'm 86. Almost kind of the same time Drew Brees says I'll play until I'm 45, and then Father Time said, "Oh yeah." We'll find out just how good you are. Pulled that oblique, and it affected him for a long time.
It really did. It was one of the problems with him, again, throwing the ball deep early in the season. Obviously, that oblique was bothering him. The only scenario I see Sean Payton walking away is if Mr. Benson passes. That would be the only scenario.
Yeah, I can believe that. The only thing with that, you being under contract, I don't see him leaving. Now, again, after that contract's over with, everything's open. I understand Peter's article. And he's right about every year there's a surprise. There's no way Tom Benson's getting rid of Sean Payton.
No way.
I mean, you got to look at that part of it, too.
And he's not starting over.
And he's not starting over at his age.
No way.
He believes in Sean, that Sean can. Now, what I do think is going to happen here is Sean's going to take a long look at that roster and say, you know what, I got nothing out of this last draft, basically. Brandon Cooks gave me a little bit, but that was it. I've got to do better. And the free agency part is when you think about the big names that have been brought in, they thought Victor Butler would be that guy to give him edge pressure. Injury kind of took that away from him. but the convincing yourself that a 36-year-old Champ Bailey could come here and drink from the fountain of youth was a major mistake. Now you've got Bailey not playing, Victor Butler not playing, little out of the draft. Eric, how many times have I told you, when you stand pat, you falling back in the NFL?
That's for sure. Well, Mike, I got it right here, okay? Draft since 06. 06, 08, you know it. You do this for a living. Those were 2 drafts they hit on. You look at the rest of these drafts, 1 player, 2 player maybe makes the team.
Now, last year was pretty good now.
Yep.
When you think about it, because I think Vaccaro is
about Vaccaro, Armstead, Jenkins, Stills, Rufus Johnson, only the one that didn't make the team.
So that's a pretty solid group early on. Again, you've had some mercurial play. I thought John Jenkins last year was a big part
I was ready
of
for
that
him to make the next step.
Again, though, when you look at his history, and, you know, weight has been a problem for him. When he gets his weight in check, he's a very good football player. But, you know, once you get a little bit heavier, he's not the same guy.
Injury slowed him down with the weight, you think?
I think it does. And listen, a big man, people say, well, you got to play hard. Man, how many big men play hard in this league? You got to be kidding me.
Right.
Vince Wilfork might, but he don't give you great effort each and every play. Haloti Ngata. Man, listen, if he was full bore on you every play, you got some serious issues. Those guys use up so much energy. But I do think that last year's draft is totally different from this one, where you see a project player in the second round. And to make the comment, well, if we didn't take him, someone else would, well, let somebody else take the project player.
Well, especially when you knew what happened when Jabari Greer went out, and you were banking on Patrick Robinson and Champ Bailey. I mean, that is a major mistake.
Jabari's loss, I think, becomes even a bigger window issue, and to see how good of a player he really was on that football team. We talked last year at the same time. I thought Jabari was playing better football than Keenan Lewis until he got hurt. Right. And then it opened up, and I thought Keenan finished strong. But when you look at this football team, it is something certainly that your big-time players are not playing big. Jimmy Graham has not played nearly as well as he's played in years past. Cam Jordan, who had a breakout year a year ago, is not playing the same way. And it's affected other guys on the team, because I thought his opening kind of freed the door open for Junior Gillette. I thought earlier on, Junior was maybe one of the more consistent players. Last couple of weeks, it hasn't happened.
Crushed against the run.
And one thing, if I'm playing against the Saints, I'm running the football right at Junior Gillette.
Me too.
I'm running right at him.
Well, and again, I'll say this, Mike, and I don't know if you'll agree with it. I think on most teams, he's a situational pass rusher. I mean, he has not.
He's a good one too.
Oh no, he is.
He's a good one.
But he's not. He has not consistently been able to stop the run. You add an aging Hawthorne on at the linebacker position.
And Paris Harrelson is who he is.
Yes.
He's a middle-of-the-road starter in the NFL. What this team needs to do in the offseason is get themselves another top pass rusher.
I agree.
You know, pressure breaks the pipe. And I look at it, yeah, you've got one in Gillette, and Cameron Jordan's a good player up front. But what I want is that guy that I can move around, that checkerboard piece, and that 3-4 alignment.
Is Gillette that guy?
He might be.
If you get an every down,
but I got to get another guy.
End?
But I got to get another guy that can do that. I think when you look at the tandems that have played in this league, I do think finding that other edge guy at outside linebacker is priority number one draft-wise, because come veteran free agency, what I want to get is a veteran center and a veteran cornerback. And not a 36-year-old cornerback,
yes.
but I want a center who's been a starter in the league, still has some gas left in the tank. Same thing at that cornerback position, because I've got 2 young corners. I've got one in Stanley Jean-Baptiste. I've got one in Brian Dixon. I need a guy that I can plug and play.
Yes. No, I agree. And I think you look at it, I think the draft, you can go out and maybe get that athletic linebacker. But I think free agency is probably where you got to go get maybe that.
The center
and
cornerback.
And cornerback. Yes, I would agree. Let's head back to the phone lines. 866-3200. Larry is in Kenner. Larry, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. You're on with Mike Detillier.
Hey, Eric and Mike. Like your show, buddy. Merry Christmas. Mike, this is Larry with the Who Dat truck, buddy.
All right, baby. Who that, baby?
Yeah, I just want to let all the boys in Who Dat Nation, if they listen to y'all program, I already got my tickets for the playoffs. Buy them if you can get them. We're going to beat Chicago. We're going to beat Atlanta. We're going to beat Tampa Bay. We're going to win first and second round, but we're not going to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Y'all have a good day. And I don't know why they keep blaming each other on the Saints team. They need to get together as a family and work as a team. Sean Payton's the man. He ain't going nowhere. God bless y'all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Larry. I definitely agree with your last statement. What about the statement before that? Getting into the playoffs
and winning 2 games? Oh, listen, I will say this. You know what's crazy? San Diego, and doing some shows out on the coast, San Diego got in at 8-8, and they got out of the first round and got into the divisional round. I look at Seattle and how kind of deja vu all this would be, in that Seattle could end up being second in their division, double-digit winning team, and playing a 6-10 or 7-9 New Orleans Saints team, and you got to come to New Orleans and play them.
Well, turnabout is fair play.
It is, but you know what? You got to hang in this league long enough to see that turnabout fair play. Once you get into the playoffs, the slate is kind of wiped clean a little bit, and I do think home field advantage is big. I always thought it was big for the Saints. Now, it hasn't been certainly over the last 4 games. But when you looked at it before that, and that's why when you talk to people that are involved gambling into the issues, certainly, and putting up point lines, that home field advantage is still huge for the Saints. And you look at it before they started the losing streak, they hadn't lost a game, regular season game under Sean Payton since the finale of the 2010 season. Yeah. And most people, when you said that on a program, they were like, you got to be kidding. You have not lost that many? And I said zilch up until that, and then they hit the skids.
Annette is in Houma. Annette, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for calling.
Good to hear from you guys.
Hi, Annette.
Okay, I had actually 3-part question, but it's kind of all about the same thing.
Go ahead.
One is, there's something wrong with Colston and he's dropping so many balls. I mean, I hadn't seen him drop that many balls in his whole career. 2, are they going to start using Pierre Thomas more, except for when you know it's going to be a screen? And 3, do you think the players saw that they cut Sproles and Lance Moore and Roman Harper, and so they kind of, just kind of giving away some games, thinking, well, if I play hard, they're going to cut me anyway?
Annette, thank you for the phone call.
Colston is, he's had his worst season in the black and gold.
Very inconsistent.
Very inconsistent catching the football. And, my buddy Billy Rickman played a long time in the NFL as a receiver, former All-American at Louisiana Tech. And, me and the Space Cadet, we go back a long time.
Yes.
And, one of the things he says is you got to build his confidence back up. And I think they've tried to do that, but he's been real inconsistent catching the football. And, a lot of times you hit the wall as a player. You hit the wall as a player. And, he's really struggled catching the football this year. I agree with Annette. I think Pierre Thomas should be playing more. Yes. Now, listen, nothing against Mark Ingram. He's had some really good football games. And, he's on the verge of doing something that we haven't seen since Deuce McAllister, and that's rush for 1,000 yards.
Yes.
This football team plays better when they run the ball. It's old-style football, but it's winning football. There is no question about it. When you look at that Pittsburgh game, they won the game in the trenches. Offensive, defensive line. When they beat the Packers, they beat them in the trenches, which is the most shocking victory of the season, the way they handled Green Bay at home. So I would like to see Pierre Thomas more, but he's coming off the injury, and what you don't know is what you don't know. Yes. As if maybe he's still feeling the ill effects of that injury. The other part, too, the last question
was about the loss of so many veterans.
I don't think that affects anybody on the team. Man, you're trying to struggle to make the team and stay on the team today. But the message sent, so to speak, sometimes is underlying. And why did you get rid of Darren? You got rid of him financially because you wanted to bring in Jarvis Bird.
Yeah, but Mike, last year he looked like he was slowing down. I think cutting him motivated him this year. He looks like the player from 2 years ago, not the player from last year.
Other thing, too, is it was the right fit for him, too. And listen, I've told you this so many times. There are 6, 7, 8 players on every team. You can interchange them. They're still same production. The other guys are fit. Darren Sproles would not be the same player if he was in Carolina. Right. He would not be that same guy. Sure. He goes Chip Kelly's system and what they do offensively, and it worked out beautifully. The other thing, too, is until this weekend, is the special teams part of the game, that you wouldn't get nothing. From that. And Jalen Saunders really had 2 big run backs, a 32-yard one and a 30-yard run. But, the Panthers were giving up 15 yards of punt return. Yeah. So he doubled that, but this was against a bad return unit set to begin with.
I don't think when you looked at it, anybody was downplaying that trade of Sproles because it looked like he had lost a step. He is obviously motivated to play for Philly this year, especially when you look.
And it was a good fit.
Yes.
It was a perfect fit for him.
I would agree. And on special teams as well. Is it Tasha? Tasha, welcome from New Orleans.
Toshia,
welcome.
Well, one, I agree with you about the Darren Sproles. He was went down, and he kept getting hurt. It's like every 4 games he kept getting hurt. But I'm going to throw something at you. What about this free agent, Dominican Sue, coming out this year? And is the Saints going to jump in? Also, Mike, I agree about the center, and I think Goody lost a step. So has Ben Grubbs. That pressure up the middle for us, Ben Grubbs, that's when they be coming off his side all day. And I think for the veteran cornerback, Brandon Flowers should be out there. And I'm going to throw another thing at you. There's the Florida State cornerback at 6 feet.
P.J. Williams.
He coming out in the draft this year. Am I right? I'm
yes,
not
he
sure.
is.
Yeah. Hey, I hope they go for him. I mean, if they keep going the way they're going, they should be able to get a top 10 pick. He should go somewhere in now.
Yeah, it looks like it. Toshia, thank you for the phone call.
Man, listen, I'm going for a pass rusher if I got a top 10 pick. I mean, those guys, Eric, and I've said this to college coaches too, they're the hardest things to find today. You know, that 6'3", 6'4" guy, you know, 10 years ago, he was playing outside linebacker, defensive end. You know, he's playing today, wide receiver, or tight end. So he's playing on offense. He ain't playing on defense. And when you look at the guys available, Shane Ray from Missouri, Dante Fowler Jr., he's a favorite of mine. I think he's a guy that could really, really be a good football player at the NFL level. I think both of them will be top 10 picks. Man, and Dominican Sue, you better write that check pretty strong. I don't see the Saints making that big of a play for the guy because financially it doesn't make, you know, it doesn't fit what they do. Somebody will pay Sue a lot of money. I'd be shocked if it was the Saints that got involved. And man, if I'm Detroit, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that he stays there.
No, that's for sure. There'll have to be some renegotiations, some deals on, you know, Drew Brees' deal, other deals going forward, just to be able to make room under the cap to be able to sign players. So
I agree with it. The other thing too is about the eventual replacement for Drew Brees, which was a ridiculous thing.
It really was.
Because you know what? If this football team really had that in the back of their mind, Jimmy Garoppolo would have been the perfect setup guy. He's there in round 2 for you. Eastern Illinois, guess who came from there? That's Sean Payton. You knew him very well. If you were looking for a developmental guy, he would have been it was the perfect spot for him to get picked. New England picked him a few picks past where the Saints selected. So you passed that up, and you passed on Aaron Murray. You passed on Zach Mettenberger. You passed on A.J. McCarron. You know, if I'm the Saints, and maybe you could use a little bit different terms with it, but I ride Drew Brees until the wheels come off the cart.
Well, I think they will. I definitely think they will. We'll take our break. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports every Thursday night right here on WLAE TV, 6 p.m. with our live broadcast. We have a rebroadcast every Friday night, 10 p.m. right here on WLAE, and also on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. That is 9 p.m. on Friday night. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight, Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest. Don't go anywhere. We'll come right back. We'll take your phone calls. We'll talk Tulane, LSU, and the Final Four in college football as well.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. At Natal's Air Conditioning, our motto is service honoring the golden rule. We're dedicated to providing the best air conditioning solution for your home or business in the New Orleans metro area. More information is available at 504-821-0005. Natal's Air Conditioning, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest. We're going right back to the phone lines, 866-3200. Let's go to DJ in New Orleans East. DJ, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, Eric, Mike.
DJ?
Yeah, all right, DJ.
Look, I want to expound a little bit about the wide receiver, Colston. But look, Mike was absolutely right on the linebacker position. I'm thinking they need somebody like Matthews that can go all over the place, rush from any position. Somebody like him and Kuechly, because I think they need a middle linebacker as well as the outside linebacker. But with Colston, as Mike mentioned earlier, the worst year so far. And I'm wondering, Mike, do you think that the guy's not going to come back with the Saints? And if he doesn't, who's going to take his place? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, DJ.
I think he comes back with the Saints, and they got a little bit of money tied up with him, and it's kind of the back end of that contract too for Marcus. But it's just strange with him because he's never had that serious up and down.
Right.
Now in 2010, he had a little bit of a roller coaster early in the season with drops, but nothing like what we've seen this year. The thing with Marcus is his matchup ability downfield, because you got a 6'4.5", 235-pound receiver.
Yes.
Man, with a 5'10", 185-pound cornerback, listen, we didn't go to Harvard or Yale, but even I can figure that one out. He's going to win a lot of those battles. He just hasn't caught the ball well. Right. And I think that's the issue with it. But the one guy who's blossomed has been Kenny Stills.
Yeah, he has.
We look at it. We talked about this early on, of him missing times in the OTAs and then in training camp. He had worked with Drew Brees in the offseason and pulled the quad muscle, then pulled it again in the preseason. Missed some time early. Man, Kenny Stills, I think, has really played well down the stretch for this football team and given them the big play element we all thought that Brandon Cooks would give him. And, he's become a really good football player in this team. You're talking about a guy offensively that has really broke out that you didn't maybe expect. You might say Mark Ingram, but the other guy's got to be Kenny Stills. I think he's played terrific for this football team when he's been healthy.
To Folsom and Greg. Greg, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Okay. Mike, when you look at this team right now, I want to go back to the draft for a moment. We have 18 undrafted free agents. What can they do to be able to have the success that they've had in the draft on draft day, where everything's flying fast and furious, to match the success they've had in augmenting their drafts with undrafted free agents? It's kind of mind-boggling when you look at the history of their drafts and you look at so many undrafted free agents making the team and so many busts in terms of the picks that they've had. Now, to their defense, a lot of times they're picking late, but you mentioned a team a little bit earlier, the New England Patriots. It doesn't seem to bother them.
They didn't battle the Packers.
Right.
And they've been picking late also.
You do this for a living. Your thoughts on the draft and where they're going wrong?
I did think a year ago that draft was pretty strong, and I liked what they did. And then you were able to sublet that, so to speak, with some of the free agents that you were able to bring in, like a Kyrie Robinson, Josh Hill, who have all been productive football players in this team. But it goes to show you one draft and that constant flow of talent's got to be there. Basically hit the wall this year. And again, no Jarvis Byrd, no Champ Bailey on this team. Nothing from the draft. You basically, it's an old Ronald Reagan line when he went up against Jimmy Carter. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Think about it. Are you better off today than you were a year ago at this time? You're worse off.
Yes.
And so that goes to tell you you've taken that step back, because other teams are getting better too. The crazy part about it is every team in the NFC South is in the same spot. I mean, it's the only division where you gain by subtraction.
Yes.
And it's an amazing run. When you look at it, 12 years of the NFC South, each of the 4 teams have won it 3 times. And the majority of that, 10 years of the 12, one team has kind of run away from the rest of the pack. This year, they're all running back to the pack. And that is one of the strangest years you can say, the strangest year the NFC has pieced together the division that the South has been so poor.
Now, we haven't seen juniors commit yet, but just right now, strength of the draft.
It's going to be real strong because of the juniors. Eric, no matter what, you're going to have over 100 juniors declared, just like they did a year ago. They had 100. They'll have 100 in this year's draft class. The new CBA opened the door that, you're not going to get that huge signing bonus. And coaches will lobby that, it did help. And one thing, I look back at Leal Collins. Last year, he would have probably been a second-round pick. Now, you look at this guy this year, now he was a man out there. I talk about big man leadership. Oh, yeah. You know what, when he looked at the first few games of the season, man, they were struggling, couldn't throw the football.
True.
All of a sudden, he became the guy that says, you know what, I'm taking control of this. They ran left. We use that term 74% of the time, running the football. Him and Vidal Alexander, they were crushing people. And Leal Collins benefited because he's going to be a top 12 pick in the 2015 draft. But not everybody feels that way, feeling as though I might get hurt. It may not work out for me. Yeah. And that coach might say, you know what, I just got you for as a senior. I'm going to play an underclassman a little bit. It's a give and take with it, but you can bank it. It's going to be a strong class because of what the juniors are going to come in. And we've already got, I think, 8 to declare early, and one of them from Tulane.
Well, like the NBA, you want to get that clock running. You want to get to that second contract.
Because, that first contract is the lowest amount of money you'll sign for.
There's no doubt. Stanley is in New Orleans. Stanley, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having my call.
Thank you, Stanley.
One of the problems I see with the Saints is, first and foremost, they're built for speed in the dome. And they've got to get bigger on the offensive and the defensive line. That's number one. Number two, they've always had a problem with the defensive secondary. Williams was here. He disguised it by blitzing. And now it's starting to show up. You should have kept Champ Bailey, not to put him on the field, but to teach. And I think these are the deficiencies that's going on. And Colson, yes, Colson is kicking now, because one way to stop speed is licking people. And you're seeing it in Graham. He done got licked. He's starting to tip. And we've got to get that grit. Nobody stood up for the boy when he got knocked out in San Francisco on the defensive side. And that's still part of that history here. You got to spend some money on defense. Thanks.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley. Listen, I disagree on the Champ. You can't keep him.
You've only got so many roster spots.
And my thing about it is, Champ Bailey don't want to be a coach. He wants to play.
And these kids are not going to listen to a guy that's not on the field. I mean, they got a tough time with some of the guys that are playing next to him right now.
For some of them, you got to introduce him to Champ Bailey and tell him what he did. I mean, they don't remember the 26-year-old Champ Bailey.
Right.
That's 10 years past. This is a league where a lot of young guys don't know anything about the game history-wise. Some do, some don't. But you've got to got a guy to play. They respect a guy who can play. And we never saw a healthy Jarvis Byrd. Just because of the fact that the back injury, then the knee injury. We never saw that guy. No, that's bad luck. There's no question about it.
And there's a ripple effect from that.
And from that, then you've had other injuries to Raphael Bush at the safety position. You haven't had the same play. And really, Kenny Vaccaro, to me, and what they tried to do with him was different from a year ago. And he's regressed as a player from his rookie season when you talk to other people in this league, it's like, man, Kenny Vaccaro is one heck of a football player. He's going to be a perennial All-Pro. You haven't seen that guy play this year. But it's really up front, Eric. Bottom line is their offensive and defensive lines, when they have won big, have been dominant up front. And you have not got that other than a game or 2 or 3 this season, and you deep into the 2014 season now.
I agree. Mike, for the long-term future of this team, are they better off heading into the playoffs as the South Division champions or getting a top 10 pick?
Man, if I can get into the playoffs, I'm taking it. Because you know what? They ain't got a lot of teams I got to beat to get there. Now, a lot of people feel differently. I hear, people that are reporters, sports writers.
I've talked about it.
And you've said it too.
I've said it.
But my thing is,
10.
If I get into the playoffs, I got a shot. And that's what I play the game for. Play the game for an opportunity to play for the Super Bowl. Now, I understand your point about top 10 picks, but my thing is, that don't do me any good now. And I'm playing to win today. Because you know what? Tomorrow might be totally different. It's like in any other profession. You never know what you don't know tomorrow.
That's for sure.
And so, you know what? When Baltimore made it a few years back, they came in, nobody gave them a shot. All I know, we sat in the press box, 2011. We saw the Giants get the stew kicked out of them by the Saints. When we left that night, if I'd have told you, hey, Eric, you saw a Super Bowl winning team tonight, you'd have said, man, I think the Saints got a shot.
That's right.
You'd have never said that about the Giants at all, and yet they were able to get it together. The big difference is the Giants were a healthy team, and they had a pass rush.
Right.
And that's the big difference from people try to compare that. The Giants were a relatively healthy football team, and Pierre-Paul, man, and Justin Tuck pieced it together at the end.
But, Mike, this defensive line is not injured. They're just underachieving.
The secondary has been where the injuries have come into play. But when I look back at the Giants, they weren't a scuffed-up team. You know, they came in there kind of walking. You know, we just didn't play well. The Coughlin pressed the right buttons late in the year to get them to play well. And then once they got out of that first round, then you saw a totally different team. And one thing with Baltimore, man, I'll never give up on them once they make the playoffs. One thing with Flacco, you might say what you want to say about him being an inconsistent quarterback. Man, he's money
in the playoffs.
Come playoffs.
Ain't no doubt. Back to the phone lines we go. To Mandeville and Joe. Joe, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, guys, I need your comment on the college playoffs. I think they got it wrong again. You got your typical SEC Big Ten mismatch, and I can only imagine what Saban's going to do about this quarterback for Ohio State. And plus, I'm looking at TCU and Baylor as a 7-point favorite against Ohio State. What's your comment, and what's the bowls y'all are looking forward to coming up?
Thank you, Joe.
You know what I want to see, and only because my partner at WWL, man, he's a big Oregon guy. He waved that flag like he graduated from Oregon. Man, all I know is Florida State's the closest thing athletically to Alabama. And Florida State won't stop Oregon a lot of times, but I know one thing, that Oregon defense ain't stopping Florida State much. And you got 4 weeks now for Jameis Winston to get healthy with that bad ankle, which he had. No one leaked it out until late, but he's had a bad ankle, that deal. I think Florida State and Alabama play for everything. Urban Meyer does know Nick Saban real well, but he knew him real well when he had really great players at Florida. Now, Ohio State does not have those type athletes. I think when you give Nick that type time in a meaningful game, you know, when they played Oklahoma last year, you know, man, for Oklahoma, it meant the world to them to beat Alabama. They came off of losing a game like very few teams have ever lost when they lost to Auburn, the way Alabama did. I think Alabama, Florida State play for the national championship, and that ought to be an interesting game. I hate to say this, but it's true. I wouldn't touch Jameis Winston as an NFL player, but I think he's the most prepared guy from college to pro quarterback-wise. And, you know, if you're looking at seniors and juniors today, he's the most prepared to play in the NFL. He's a drop-back style quarterback that's got some movement skills, and he can put the ball in a tight window. Why I wouldn't want him? Off the field. If you're getting in that much trouble and you don't have any money, just think what kind of trouble you're going to get in when you do have cash in your pockets.
And again, a quarterback, you want to.
You got to be the face of the franchise.
No doubt. Mike, your thoughts on the system itself? Will we see expansion, 8 to 16 teams down the line, or do you think it'll be a Final Four for a while?
I think it'll be a Final Four until 2020, and then I think TV will dictate, man, look, the money we got rolling in, let's expand it to 8, which my first thoughts, and we've talked about it last year, I thought it should have been 8 from the start. But you know what? I think they got it right. And nothing against Baylor and TCU, but I think they have the best 4 teams in college football today playing in the series. You can make an argument with Baylor and TCU, but my thing is, you would have a tough time making an argument why Ohio State's not in it.
Well, obviously, the committee said championship games matter, and I think the Big 12 is going to have to rectify
and how they finished.
And also, I think that some of the things we've heard, teams that travel well, it's 2 games, Mike. It's not 1 game. It's 2 games. You got to go to the semifinals, then you got possibly the championship. So you want a fan base that's also going to travel. That's Ohio State.
No question about it. You know what? An intriguing game away from that, Peach Bowl. Ole Miss, TCU.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, for Ole Miss, that game against Mississippi State meant everything to them to beat State. Now you playing a team, man, if you don't have a chip on your shoulder after getting left out of the series, you'll never have one. Gary Patterson going up against Hugh Freeze. I'll never forget Barry Switzer told us this. LSU's first national championship when Nick Saban won it since Paul Dietzel had won it. And we did the pregame show with Barry, and he was saying, you know what, one thing I can't guarantee you today, when you got 3 or 4 weeks off, the team you see in late November, you never see again in January. Either they're better or worse. And he says, you know what? Distractions make you worse. If I'm going to come out for the draft, what I'm going to do at a holiday time, everybody asking for tickets, who I'm going to work out with in the off season. He said, there's so many different distractions, and either you get better or you get worse. We've seen teams finish hot, come bowl game, they hit the tumble. And against teams that if they played them 10 times, they would beat them basically 9 out of the 10.
Mike, your thoughts on the state of LSU football?
I was really not shocked by the way, because I thought they'd be in a 9-win team this year, but win 9 differently, so to speak. I thought they'd really fold toward the end because of their quarterback situation. And they ended up winning 2 games late that, surprisingly, man, when you don't have a quarterback that completes 50% of his throws, you got to change your system offensively to fit the people that you're bringing in. When you got in spread option, pistol quarterbacks, you got to adapt to what Brandon Harris and Anthony Jennings do best.
Cameron said as much this week.
And he said it this week. You know what's surprisingly, the one weakness I saw coming into this season, LSU defensively, was defensive tackle. It was the weakness to start the season. It isn't the weakness anymore. It's going to be the strength of that team. Look at Quentin Thomas, what he did. Christian Lacouture. How did Davin Gadshaw not get even honorable mention for all freshmen? Look what he did. And if I gave you the list of guys that they signed, here's a guy coming off of a knee injury who was a defensive end. He'd have been on the bottom tier. I thought he played terrific. Here's the trump card, Trevante Valentine. Does finally the NCAA give him the 2 thumbs up? You can come play at LSU. That position turns into a strength for LSU. I do think they'll lose Danielle Hunter, Jalen Mills, Jalen Collins early to the NFL. I don't know about Quan. I think he's one of those guys. I think he's a better player than Lamine Barrow as a pro prospect, but I don't know if he's going to come out. The area to watch for LSU is how well you adapt your system to the quarterbacks, and what do you lose along the offensive line? You're going to lose Porter and Collins. You understand that, along with your swing man, Evan Washington. But Gerald Hawkins is a third-year sophomore like Trey Turner was. He can come out early. Vidal Alexander is a junior. You lose that along with Collins and Porter.
In trouble.
Only one guy returns. That would be Ethan Pulsic. And where do you play him? Do you play him at left tackle? He's not the center. I think either he's a guard or a left tackle. If Hawkins returns, then I'd put him at left tackle because I've always, I saw him when he was a high school guy. I always felt his best position was left tackle, the best athlete LSU has along their offensive line. I think it's in pretty strong shape. That's why, in my opinion, man, Les Miles leaves to go to Michigan. Why would I do that?
Right.
Well, what I got, man, I know Michigan's reached out to him.
Yes.
But why would I want to go back to Michigan? How deja vu would this be? Nick Saban left Michigan State to come to LSU because he would always be the number 2 team in Michigan. Man, if you went to Michigan, you're not even the number 1 team anymore. The other thing, too, Urban Meyer told me this in the offseason. Rare today do you see Southern athletes go up north to play. He said, every once in a while you get a couple of them, but it's rare, or rarer, I should say today, than ever before. And I do think the effect of the SEC network in that constant commercial for Southeast Conference football has put in their head. Now you look across here at TCU, Baylor, UCLA, USC. They're in the backyard here trying to recruit. I mean, you mean to tell me that they don't have enough players in Los Angeles, and you got Jim Moore coming here? It's just amazing how Southern football has changed the landscape. I think if I'm Les at that age, man, it ain't all cracked up what it's to be to say I'm going back home.
LSU Notre Dame, your thoughts?
I think LSU wins this football game. I look at it, Notre Dame's strength is their ability to throw the ball, big receivers, you playing right into the strength of LSU's defense, which is the ability to get pressure off the edge, and their secondary, which is as good as anybody's in college football. Notre Dame has had trouble stopping the run all season long. Well, guess what LSU's going to do? Man, they're going to pound the rock. If I'm them, I run the football 55 times in that football game against Notre Dame and basically just tan their backside. That's why they start out an 8.5-point favorite. That's amazing against that team. I think that LSU wins this football game. They do it like they've done all season long. And not a lot of play from the quarterback position. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm going one-on-one with defenders and say, you know what, if you're going to beat me, I stack the box. But I look at that LSU offensive line. I told you this in the summer. I don't think you and I in our lifetime will see as good an offensive line as what you see at LSU this year. It didn't start out that way, Eric. I thought I was dead wrong, but at the end, man, I don't want to play that offensive line.
You're right. Before we go back to the phone lines, the future of Tulane football, in your opinion?
Yeah, I like what CJ is doing. Again, it is part and parcel of winning is big man. It's the hardest people to find in recruiting, and that's where you got to get better. I can find receivers and running backs, defensive backs. They've done a real good job there. It's getting better up front. You've got the quarterback now. And again, he went through his freshman year like you would normally go through. He's had ups and downs. Getting big men, guys that can play the run strong and can run the football up front, that's where CJ's got to hit. Offensive, defensive lineman, and a big man in the middle at linebacker. I think that you got to get a little bit bigger there to play that position and excel at it. But CJ is doing a great job recruiting now. But he's got to put the other part in. And Eric, is the hardest thing today. Big men to find.
Especially when you're dealing with teams in the Southeastern Conference and other Louisiana schools.
So you know what? You got to take a 6'5" guy and redshirt him and put on 50, 60 pounds on him. Yeah.
To Slidell and Harris. Harris, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, Eric, thanks for taking my call. I was calling to ask, who holds Sean Payton accountable? I hear him during some of his press conference, and sometimes he's caustic, he's combative, and I know the organizational chart, but from your guest, Mike, I'm just wondering who holds him accountable for what's going on with the team.
Harris, thank you for the phone call. Mike, Sean Payton holds Sean Payton accountable, in my opinion.
And he's as hard on himself as anybody else. And listen, Sean's a tough coach on players. But you know what? Everybody will tell you the same thing. He's fair. You know, when he's hard, on you for one thing or another, he's fair to you too. It happens to every coach. And I've talked to about a dozen of them this week. And they all say the same thing. I've been in that spot with a team that, man, I don't know what more I could do. And it drives you crazy. And so, every once in a while, you hit the panic button. Or you hit a button that, you can keep hitting it. It's not going to work on that spot. So I know one thing. Sean Payton holds Sean Payton responsible for this football team. And he's accountable for it. Because when you look back, there ain't a player on this roster that he don't have his fingerprints, toe prints, any other print that he can put on that player that he wanted him here.
Ed is in Kenner. Ed, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Guys, who that, guys?
Who that, babe?
Hey, listen now, Mike. Well, I wasn't on receivers. We should have been able to tear these guys up because, especially the defensive back. Didn't they release the Cloud and Godfrey and one other veteran linebacker? We were playing against second and rookie corners and safeties.
Against Carolina?
Against Carolina.
Oh, absolutely. They are a bad football team. I'll be honest with you. I thought the Saints would win this game by 10 points. Their record against Carolina at home has been unbelievable, and yet you didn't take advantage of any of that. And my thing with Carolina, what they don't have this year, no Greg Hardy. Now, listen, whatever happened off the field, that's got to be done with. And, listen, you shouldn't put your hand on a woman.
Right.
You shouldn't do it.
Agreed.
And you paid a price for it. Only thing I knew is last year they could rush 4, drop 7 in coverage. Their secondary wasn't good.
Huge loss for them.
Man, huge loss for them, Greg Hardy. And that's the big difference for them defensively. Yes. Offensively, no Steve Smith, no Jordan Gross. They didn't gain by subtraction.
Yeah, I would agree. Last call of the night to Ponchatoula and Brian. Brian, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey,
Brian.
How y'all doing this evening? Brian. Mike, I just want to know, how's the recruiting going for Tulane? And Eric, do you think the Green Wave underachieved this year? I'll just hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I don't think they underachieved. I think they were in a tough conference. You got a really kind of a rookie quarterback. I think that, again, they're kind of right where they maybe won another game, but I think they're probably right where they should have been.
And they beat Houston. That was, you look at that spot, you didn't think they'd win that game. So I knew that going into this season that it was going to be much tougher than a year ago. Much, much tougher than a year ago. But one thing with CJ, he has got the brand out there. And I think he's done an excellent job. His recruiting has been solid so far. What I want to see him finish up strong with, offensive, defensive linemen. Those are the real skilled people of the world.
Yes, no doubt about it. Mike, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Certainly appreciate it. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio. And thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE TV at 10 p.m. Also, you can see it on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette at a new time on Friday nights, 9 p.m. Also, you catch me on the radio weekdays, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. on 990 a.m. WGSO. You can also download my podcast or listen live to the radio show at ericasher.com. And if you missed any of the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports, you can check those out at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to Mike Detillier, also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Kenny Juno, and my director, William Hill. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you right back here for Inside New Orleans Sports next Thursday night. And let's hope we can get a win this weekend. Huh? Yeah, you're right.